Plants cannot walk away from drought or shade or heat, salt, or herbivore animals. Yet they are far from passive. They survive through inherent adaptations and through responses that occurs during an individual plant's lifetime. So that's what we are going to discuss in this lecture today. An adaptation is an inherited feature that requires survival and reproduction in a particular environment and becomes common across generations through natural selection because these adaptations have increased the chances of survival of an organism. This differs from acclimation, which is an adjustment made by a plant during its lifetime, and they're generally not inherited. And they are usually made in response to some immediate stimulus. Adaptations can be structural, physiological, or reproductive. Let's talk about plant adaptations to water availability. Xerophytes are adaptations to environment where water is scarce. A thick, waxy cuticle reduces evaporation. Sunken stomata creates a pocket of humid air that slows water loss. Reduced leaves or spines decrease surface area for evaporation, while succulent tissue stores water. Root systems may grow deep through the groundwater and spread widely near the surface to capture enough rainwater. These traits involve trade-offs. So, for example, reducing leaf area conserves water, but it also limits the amount of photosynthesis performed by those leaves. The first question that you will get in your quiz will be about xerophytes. All the options are examples of xerophytes. And to make sure that you are not just getting answers from external sources, I want you to pick the xerophyte that I choose for you. So you have to pick option 3, which is aloe vera. Hydrophytes live partially or entirely in water. Because dehydration is not a problem for them, their cuticle may be thin or absent. Parenchyma is the tissue with large air spaces which help move gases and can also increase the buoyancy of plants. Floating leaves are broad and often place stomata on the upper surface where they come in contact with the air and exchange gases. Flexible stem and leaves bend with the current of water instead of resisting them so that they just don't break off. In your second question in your quiz, you have 4 different examples of hydrophyte, but the hydrophyte that I want you to pick is option B, lotus. Mesophytes occupy environments with moderate and reasonable reliable supply of water. Many familiar garden plants and temperate forest species are basically mesophytes. They usually have well-developed roots, moderate cuticle, numerous stomata, and vascular tissue that suits ordinary and not extreme environmental conditions. Sciophytes are the shade-tolerant plants. They are found under the tree canopy or in shady areas. The common adaptations in these plants is that they have broad and large leaves, which is to increase the surface area to capture as much light as possible, for example, ferns. They increase the efficiency of photosynthesis by efficiently locating chlorophyll at the areas of the plant body where they receive more light, and they also have specialized chlorophyll which absorb maximum amount of light, particularly in the blue spectrum. Their growth rate is usually low because they are trying to conserve energy because they don't have much energy because of limited light availability. Heliophytes are the sun-loving plants. They are found in open areas with direct sunlight. Main adaptations in them are that they have thick but small leaves to reduce the loss of water and resist sun damage. And they defend themselves from UV light by creating some protective pigments in them, and these pigments also protect them from excessive heat. They utilize abundant sunlight and they grow very rapidly. So the question from Heliophytes for you is, All the options in this question are the examples of heliophytes. But I want you to pick wheat, which is option 4 in this question, and that will be your correct answer, and that'll let me know that you have actually watched the video. Cryophytes are cold temperature tolerant plants. They are mainly found in cold areas such as Arctic, alpine, and temperate environments. The main adaptations in them are they contain antifreeze proteins which prevent ice crystallizing in their cellular structures. They have small and needle-like leaves which prevents the loss of water and also prevents ice from settling on the surface of leaves. They display perennial dormancy to escape harsh cold weather, and their leaves are usually dark in color to absorb more and more sunlight, however much is available to them. Next adaptation is in the plants which are exposed to high heat. So heat-tolerant plants reduce tissue temperature and conserve water. Leaves may roll, fold, or change their orientation to reduce exposed surface area. Transpiration can cool leaves when water is available, but this strategy becomes costly during drought. Succulents stores water, and CAM, the pathway of photosynthesis that we talked about in photosynthesis lecture, allows stomata to open mainly at night so that the plants don't end up losing a lot of water because of opening of these stomata. Carnivorous plants typically live in sunny, wet habitats with nutrient-poor soil, especially low in nitrogen and phosphorus. Modified leaves trap insects and small organisms using snap traps, pitchers, sticky surfaces, or suction mechanisms. The digestive enzyme and microbes release minerals for the prey. A common misconception is that these plants obtain their energy from the insects, so they are basically eating insect as food, but these plants are photosynthetic. They perform photosynthesis. It's just that the soil is poor in nitrogen and phosphorus, and that's what they obtain from the insect. So your question 4 in your quiz enlists different examples of carnivorous plants, and I want you to pick Venus flytrap from those 4 options. Mycorrhiza are mutualistic association between fungi and plant roots. Fungal hyphae extend far beyond the root surface and increase the access to water and minerals, especially phosphorus. In turn, plant supplies sugar and other carbon compounds produced by photosynthesis. The relationship can improve drought tolerance and resistance to some pathogens, but benefits vary in species and conditions. This is not simply a large root, it is a biological partnership that changes nutrient acquisition mechanism. Epiphytes grow on other plants, commonly on trunks and branches in humid forests. They use their host mainly for physical support rather than drawing nutrients directly from its vascular tissue. So they are not parasitic in nature. They draw moisture and nutrients from air, rain, and debris. Because they can absorb the moisture from their atmosphere, they have modified root system. They sometimes also have specialized organ for storing water in them. Halophytes are plants adapted to living in more saline environment. They are found in coastal areas and salt marshes. Common adaptations in them is their mechanism to excrete excess salt, because salt can cause ionic toxicity and osmotic stress, which makes it hard for them to absorb water. So some halophytes have a mechanism of secreting or excreting excessive salt from the glands on their leaves. Some of them are succulent, which helps them store water, and then water dilutes salt. Their root system have selective ion uptake mechanism, because of which they only absorb essential nutrients or essential ions and exclude harmful salts. So the question for you here is, of the different halophytes that I have enlisted in this question related to halophytes, I want you to pick glasswort. that is the right answer. If you pick that answer, I would know that you have watched the video. Now let's talk about different kinds of reproductive adaptations. Seed dormancy delays germination until favorable conditions arrive and increases the chances that a seedling would survive. Pollination traits match different vectors. For example, if it's a wind pollinated flower, they would usually have abundant lightweight pollens which could be carried around with the wind. If it's an animal pollinated flower, then they would have different vibrant colors, scent, nectar, or specialized shape that would attract plants. Dispersal adaptations reduces competition of the baby plant with the parent plant. So the seed would like to grow away from the parent plant. If it's a wind dispersal mechanism, there would be wings or plumes. And if it's a dispersal mechanism mediated through animals, then it's because seeds are enclosed in fruit. Animals eat food and they defecate or throw food far away from the parent plant. Now we will shift from adaptations across generations to responses which are produced in individual plants' lifespan. Tropism are directional growth responses. Direction depends on the direction of the stimulus. Nastic movements are non-directional. Their direction is determined by organ structure rather than where the stimulus comes from. Plants detect light, gravity, touch, water, and chemical signals. They lack nerves and muscles, but they coordinate responses through receptors, electrical and chemical signals, hormones, water movement, and differential growth. Phototropism is the directional growth in response to light. Shoots usually show positive phototropism. Blue light receptors, called phototropins, detect unequal illumination. Auxin is redistributed towards the shaded side of the young shoot, where it promotes cell elongation. Because shaded side cells elongate more, the shoot bends towards light. Roots may show weak negative phototropism, but gravity and moisture often have stronger effect on their growth and differentiation. Gravitropism is plant growth in response to gravity. Starch-filled structures called amyloplasts settle to the lower side of the cell and help the plant detect gravity. This changes the distribution of auxin, which is a plant hormone. In roots, more auxin on the lower side slows cell elongation, causing the roots to bend downward. In shoots, more auxin on the lower side increases cell elongation, causing the shoots to bend upward. Thus, auxin has different effect in roots and shoots. Thigmotropism is plant growth in response to touch. When a tendril touches a support, signal inside the plant causes it to grow and coil around the object. This helps the plant and allow its leaves to reach more light without needing a thick stem. Because thigmotropism involves growth, it is usually slow and permanent. In contrast, the quick folding of mimosa leaves, which you see when someone touches the leaves of a mimosa plant, is a nastic movement and not a growth response. Hydrotropism is root growth in response to water. Roots can sense where more water is available and grow towards it. Unequal growth on different sides of root causes the root to bend towards the wetter area. Several signals, including abscisic acid and auxin, help control this response. In soil, root growth is also affected by gravity, oxygen, and nutrients and soil condition. Chemotropism is plant growth in response to chemicals. During fertilization, chemicals in the flower help guide the pollen tube towards the ovule. The pollen tube carrying the sperm cells grows towards the embryonic sac for fertilization. Nastic responses are plant movements that do not depend on the direction of the stimulus. In Thigmonasty, mimosa leaves quickly fold when touched because change in the water movement and turgor pressure causes the leaves to move. In Photonasty, flowers open and close in response to light intensity. In Nyctinaceae, leaves and flower open and close according to the day-night cycle. Young sunflower head can follow the sun across the sky. This directional response to sunlight is called Heliotropism. Mature sunflower head usually stop following the sun. Plant hormones work in very small amounts and often interact with each other to control plant growth and development. For example, gibberellins promote stem elongation and germination. Auxins promote cell elongation, particularly in phototropism and gravitropism. Cytokinins stimulate cell division and shoot formation. Ethylene is involved in fruit ripening and stress response, like Thigmotropism. Abscisic acid, also known as ABA, inhibits growth, promotes dormancy, and help in drought response. Plants respond to many signals at the same time, and different hormones work together to produce a response. For example, in the condition of unequal light, changes in the auxin distribution impacts the shoot to bend towards light. Under drought condition, ABA level increases, which causes stomata to close and reduce water loss. Herbivores or pathogens activate hormones such as jasmonic acid or salicylic acid, which help the plant defend itself. So, to conclude, plants survive through two related but distinct processes. Adaptations are inherited population level features that shape over generations. Responses and acclimation occurs within an individual's lifespan and allows flexible adjustment. Structural traits, physiology, reproduction, directional growth, turgor movement, and hormone network help plants acquire resources, limit damage, reproduce, and cope with environmental conditions. Understanding the time scale, seconds, days, seasons, or generations, help us clarify each example correctly.